January 20th, 2026. Buddha Dhamma, Section 4, A Worthy Life. Written and composed, translated by Somdet, Phra, Buddhaghosacariya. English name, P.A. Payutto. Chapter 12.2, The Noble Path and the Threefold Training. The Noble Path, the Eightfold Noble Path, Mak Ong Pet. The Threefold Training, Tiso Sika or Sika Tiso. Page 1280 to 1288. We're going to talk today about the eightfold path of Samma Titi, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kamanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, and Samma Samadhi. Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And also the threefold training, Sika Tiso or Tiso Sika. The training of Panya Skanda. Skanda is the group or the aggregate of wisdom. Sila Skanda, virtuous conduct group or aggregate. And Samadhi Skanda, concentration group or concentration aggregate. A. From the Eightfold Path to the Threefold Training. The Threefold Training is considered a complete system of practice, which encompasses the entirety of the Eightfold Path and distills the essence of the path for the purpose of practical application. It is thus used as a standard teaching for describing the Dhamma practice. It is fair to conclude that the Eightfold Path contains the full essence of the Dhamma practice, and the Threefold Training expresses the entirety of the Dhamma practice in a practical way. Moreover, nevertheless, and in addition to, the Threefold Training draws upon the essential principles contained in the path and elaborates upon them, providing comprehensive details of practice. Magga, the path, or the Noble Eightfold Path of Arya Atta Anna Kamaga, can ultimately be translated as the Eightfold Path of the Noble Beings. Eightfold Path leading to one to become a noble being, or the Eightfold Path discovered by the noble beings, the awakened one, a Buddha, or Gautama Buddha himself, or the Supreme Path comprised of the 8 factors. The 8 factors are as follows. First, Samadhi, right understanding, right view. Second, Samma Sankappa, right thought. Third, Samma Vacha, right speech. Fourth, Samma Kamanta, right action. Fifth, Samma Ajiva, right livelihood. Sixth, Samma Vayama, right effort. Seventh, Samma Sati, right mindfulness. And eighth, Samma Samadhi, right concentration. The term Eightfold Path leads some people to misunderstand that there are 8 separate paths which must be traveled in succession. Once one has completed the path, one then begins another until 8 are all complete. They think that one must practice these 8 factors separately and in chronological order, but this is not the case. The term Eightfold Path clearly refers to a single path with 8 factors. This is similar to a perfectly built road which possesses many different elements and components. Take the example, the layers of earth, stones, and gravel, sand, concrete, and tarmac to build up the road surface. The road's borders, the lanes, the banks where the road curves, light signals and road signs indicate direction, distance and locations, road map and street lamps. Just as a road is composed of these different parts and someone driving on it relies on all of them together, so too, Magga, the path, is comprised of 8 factors. And the law of the Dhamma practitioners must apply all of them in an integrated fashion. For ease of understanding, Gautama Buddha classified the 8 factors into 3 groups of aggregates. In this case, skanda, Dhamma skanda. The concentration group, samadhi skanda, and the wisdom group, panya skanda, or simply virtuous conduct, sila, concentration, samadhi, and panya, wisdom. Here, right speech, right action, right livelihood are all included in the morality group, just as one may distinguish the compressed earth, gravel, and sand, etc., which makes up the road surface as one group. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are all included in the concentration group, as one may classify the road's borders, embankments, and lanes and curves, those things regulating the road's course, directions. As another group, finally, right view and right thought make up the wisdom group, just as one may include traffic lights, signs, and street lamps into the third group. The wisdom group has right view and right thought. The sila group, or virtuous conduct, has right speech, action, and livelihood. The concentration group, or samadhi group, has right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This classification of these 3 groups, the 3 Dhamma skanda, sila skanda, samadhi skanda, and panya skanda, is a way of grouping similar qualities together. In regard to the practical application, these path factors are classified in a similar way. And as the group, they are given the names of the threefold training, Ti So Sikha. Individually, they are referred to as the training in higher virtue, Ati Sila Sikha. The training into the higher mind, Ati Sita Sikha. And the training in the higher wisdom, Ati Panya Sikha. Both of these 2 groups can be referred to simply as Sila Samadhi Panya. Roughly speaking, Ati Sila equals Sila, Ati Sita equals Samadhi, and Ati Panya equals Panya. Note that referring to the threefold training to Sila, Samadhi, and Panya is informal. In the Tipitaka, the Pali Canon, the terms Sikha, Sila Sikha, Samadhi Sikha, and Panya Sikha do not exist. In some canonical texts, the 3 aggregates or skandhas, the 3 groups of these 3 trainings, are arranged in sequence. But their original names, Ati Sila Sikha, Ati Sita Sikha, Ati Panya Sikha, are strictly preserved. These trainings are as follows. First, training in higher virtue, Ati Sila Sikha, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Second, training in the higher mind, Ati Sikha, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Third, training in higher wisdom, Ati Panya Sikha, right view and right thought. Whereas the classification of these three groups, aggregate skandha, simply groups together similar qualities. The Threefold, the threefold training, aims to show that the sequence of these qualities are applied in practice. The word Sika can be translated as training, study, or discipline, paying careful attention to, practice, or cultivation. This term refers to the essential aspects of training and cultivating one's physical conduct, one's speech, one's state of mind, and one's wisdom, leading gradually to the realization of the highest goal, to liberation, to nibbita. This is a brief definition for the Threefold, or is as follows. 1. Training in the higher virtue, Ati Sila Sika. Training and study on the level of conduct and in line with moral code in order to be upright in body, to be upright in speech, and to be upright in livelihood. 2. Training in higher mind, Ati Sita Sika. Training the mind in cultivating spiritual qualities, generating happiness, developing the state of one's mind, and gaining proficiency at concentration. And 3, training in the higher wisdom, Ati Panya Sika. Training in higher levels of wisdom, giving rise to thorough understanding, which leads to complete purification of the mind and liberation from dukkha, suffering. In order to give a complete definition of these three trainings, Threefold, one must combine an explanation of their purpose. The Threefold, the threefold training, refers to the training of conduct, the mind, and wisdom, which leads to an end of suffering and true happiness and deliverance. The essence of each training in the context of this path of liberation is as follows. The essence of training in higher morality is to live in an upright way in society, supporting, protecting, and promoting peaceful and virtuous coexistence. Moral conduct is the foundation for developing the quality of one's mind and cultivating wisdom. The essence of training in higher mind is to develop and enhance the quality of the potential of the mind, which supports living virtuous life and conducive for applying wisdom in the most optimal way. The essence of training the higher wisdom is to discern and understand things according to the truth, to penetrate the nature of conditioned phenomenon, so that one lives and acts with wisdom. One knows how to relate to the world correctly and shares blessings with others, endowed with a bright, independent, and joyous mind, free from dukkha, suffering. The essence of the Threefold, the three training, is not confined to an individual, but also has its bearings on or appeals to people's responsibilities in the context of their communities and society. To establish social system, building in institutions, arranging activities, applying virtuous methods in order for the essence of these trainings to be integrated into society, or for people to be grounded in the Threefold, threefold training. Here, a moral code acts as the basis for these social systems, which then links to the training in the higher morality. Broadly speaking, when the term sila compasses a moral code or discipline, the meaning of sila includes creating an environment, both physical and social, which helps to prevent evil, unskillful actions, and promote virtuous actions. This is especially true in relation to setting up social systems and social enterprises by establishing communities, organizations, or institutions, and by enacting a moral code and prescribing rules and regulations for regulating the behavior of people and promoting communal well-being. The technical word for such as moral code is the Vinaya Pitika. So the discipline or the moral code basket. Strictly speaking, setting down a moral code, the Vinaya, one of the three baskets from the Tipitaka, is a preparation and an instrument for establishing people's in virtuous conduct, sila. Technically, Vinaya has not yet reached the stage of sila, but has mentioned above in relation to spiritual training, moral discipline is connected to and is the foundation for moral conduct. So when speaking comprehensively, Vinaya is included in the term sila. A moral code should be prescribed appropriate to the objectives of a particular community or society. Take the example of a monk in a monastic discipline, the Vinaya, that Gautama Buddha, laid down for both the Bhikkhu and the Bhikkhunis, communities containing both precepts dealing with monks and nuns' individual behavior, those dealing with communal issues, administration, looking into the consideration of legal issues, imposing penalties, appointing the community, the Sangha's officials, procedures for the Sangha's meeting, proper decorum for both receiving visitors and for them being a guest oneself, and for the use of communal possessions. The term Vinaya tends to be interpreted by Buddhist scholars in a very narrow sense, as referring merely to the rules and regulations dealing with individual behavior. In the contrast of the wider society, Gautama Buddha suggests broad principles to be used by leaders and rulers who should determine the details of behavior in relation to the state or the nation. An example is the teaching on the imperial observation, Sakhavati Vata, which presents principles for a king or an emperor to rule in a righteous fashion favorable to all members of the population, to prevent lawlessness, immorality, and evil in the country, and to distribute wealth so that none of the citizens are left destitute. The teaching on the imperial observations and on the royal acts of service is Vracha Sanghara Vatu, according to the Kutta Danta Sutra. A prominent example of laying down a moral code for society based on Buddhist principles is the system of rulership prescribed by Emperor Asoka. In contemporary parlance, a disciplinary code, Vinaya, fostering virtuous conduct, sila, in society as a whole, encompasses many aspects, including the government, legislature, and judiciary, the economy, and cultural traditions, social institutions, and other important aspects. Like the policy around adult entertainment centers, policies of ill repute, addictive substances, crime, and professional standards. Essentially, ati sita, the higher mind or concentration, refers to methods of developing tranquility, samatha, and is to various methods of tranquility, meditation, which many leaders and meditation centers have designed and established in the evolution of Buddhism, as is evident in the meditation system described in the commentaries of Buddhaghosa that he wrote in the Visuddhimagga. Two kinds of meditation, samatha and vipassana. Samatha meditation is concentration, while vipassana is, or tranquility meditation, while vipassana is insight meditation. And to dive in that more, you could go check out Visuddhimagga, written by Venerable Buddhaghosacariya, which have been adapted over the ages. But in general, comprehensive sense, higher mind or concentration encompasses all methods and means to induce calm in people's minds. To make people to be steadfast in virtues, arouse enthusiasm, and generate perseverance in developing goodness. From a broad perspective, similar into including the Vinaya in the term Sila, the term in the higher mind indicates or includes a system of establishing virtuous friends, Kalyana Mitra, of providing the seven favorable conditions, Sapaya. And we're going to speak that here. So the seven favorable conditions of Sapaya are the conditions that make the sense of ease, suitable, supportive, and favorable factors, conditions favorable for or to meditation, conditions with strength and support to concentration, samadhi, appear here in passages in the Tipitaka. The first one is asava or sena sana, meaning dwelling or a dwelling place. Gochara, meaning resort, place for finding food. Basa, dhamma, asavana, speech, listening to the teaching. Bukala, people or persons. Bochana, ahara, food. Utu, meaning climate and environment. And iriyapata, posture. And these factors are suitable and unfavorable. They are referred to as sapaya. So sapaya are favorable conditions. If we put an A in front of sapaya, asapaya are unfavorable conditions. And enhancing the quality of mind so that people progress in meditation and developing mind development. This includes such things as establishing places that are relaxing and refreshing, creating a cheerful, bright atmosphere in people's living spaces, offices, and work sites, educating people to think in a positive ways, instilling in people's minds the quality of loving kindness and compassion, the desire to do good, and the wish to spiritual refinement, organizing activities that help generate virtue, encourage people to adopt a spiritual ideal, and teaching people to strengthen the mind and increase its capabilities. In a strict literal sense, Ati Panya refers to the development of insight, vipassana bhavana, for which the system of practice has evolved in a similar way to methods of practicing concentration. But from a wider perspective, which takes into account the essence and the objective of wisdom, panya, the levels of practice refers to all activities developing one's thinking, developing one's knowing, and encompassing the entire spectrum of what we call study or training, sikha. Such study relies on virtuous friends, especially one's teachers, to transmit learning, sutta, knowledge, and proficiency in the arts and sciences, beginning with vocational knowledge, which is the matter of virtuous conduct, sila. Vocational or academic knowledge in itself, however, does not qualify as atipanya. Teachers should establish faith in their students and encourage them to think for themselves. At the very least, the students should develop samatiti, right view, in line with the eternal law, Dhamma, Satana, Dharma. Over and above this, teachers can help students to see things according to Satya, truth, and to relate to the world correctly, to live wisely, to develop an effective practice that subdues defilements and dispels dukkha, so subdues kalesa and asavas, and to get rid of sufferings, dukkha, to benefit others and to be happy. Ultimately speaking, providing a Training on this level is the function of schools or institution of learning. Such places should support a training on all three levels: the level of virtuous conduct, the level of concentration, and the level of wisdom. They should not focus exclusively on wisdom. This is because the training in higher wisdom is the highest stage of training, the completion of which relies on the first two stages as foundation. Moreover, these three levels of training are mutually supportive. Only with these three stages of development are well integrated in spiritual practice, true and complete. In everyday circumstances, the gradual and interrelated practice according to the threefold training is easy to illustrate. For example, when people live together peacefully, they do not need to experience mistrust or fear. When one does not perform bad deeds, the heart is at ease. When the heart is at ease, one is able to reflect on and understand things effectively. When one does not perform bad deeds, one is self-confident and the mind is settled. When the mind is settled, one is able to contemplate things earnestly and directly. When one performs good deeds, say by helping someone else, the mind is joyful and clear. When the mind is clear, one thinking is too clear and agile. When there are no issues of enmity and revenge between people, the mind is not overcast or in conflict. When the mind is not clouded or bad-tempered, one contemplates things clearly, being without bias and distortion. From such well-prepared foundation, a person is able to develop more refined levels of spiritual practice. That's part 1 of 12.2. Leaving off at page 1288.